at this point in the movie, I'm like, okay, well, here's what you should have done. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, right. It's one of my favorite openings ever.
and I've watched that alternate ending, and it is garbage.
It doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
There's a monster. I'm ready for it to be over.
Well,
But I'm not sure I can even fully explain why I love this movie so much.
I had some issues with this scene.
My feelings on it have not changed.
I fell asleep until the screaming. This is actually where I started enjoying the movie.
This is one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema.
I thought that should have been cut completely.
Fine.
Well, I'm sure it's artistic and you just don't get it. All right. Finally, after the third attempt, we're back.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. It has been so long since we recorded that, some buttons were pushed that shouldn't have been pushed and this kind of thing. And we'll see how that plays and maybe we'll leave it in, maybe we won't.
I think buttons are always pushed that shouldn't be pushed,
Yeah.
personally. But
No, well, it's one of my skill sets. Welcome to what we're calling season 2 of Fellowship of the Real. And in honor of that, we have decided to do 4 sequels. This time we are recording for, I guess we're doing Wrath first. Is that what we decided?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, will be this episode, and that is my pick. But before we get started, Sherry had an idea, because we're always quoting movies or saying movie lines. She wanted to see maybe how smart we thought we really were. And so we're going to do a short segment where Sherry tests our knowledge of some movie lines. I don't know if we have a name for this yet, but I do have a bumper for it. So we're going to do Sherry's trivia time. We'll come up with a name and place later. All right, Sherry, you're on. This is your
Yes,
time to shine.
I wanted to see how smart you are. Now, some of these are very famous. They're like on the top 50 list of most famous movie lines. Some of them are lines that you may have heard someone say, and some of them are just, I think they're so funny and so cool, and that hopefully you will know what movie they're from because they're so unique. So anyway.
All right.
So the first one I have is one of the most.
You asked.
what are the rules?
We don't chime in, right? Like if we know.
How do you want to do it?
Well, because there's no buzzer, right? And
No, there's no buzzer.
So does
Just
the first person who know it shout it out? Or do we
Just blurt it out.
I guess blurt it out, but
okay?
you may want to let me finish
Yeah,
saying it.
sure.
But
We could all have our own buzzer sounds. I can go like quack, quack.
Sure.
You can go ring, ring.
Right. Okay.
It was like, okay, y'all ready?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Quack, quack.
Okay, this is it was like, I think the number one line, most famous, and one list I looked at. All right. The first one is, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
That's going with the win.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was easy.
You have to answer in the form of a question.
It doesn't matter. You can say the name of the movie, the name of the character, or whoever. Do you know what character said it?
Rhett Butler, right?
Butler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a softball. Okay. That's a warm up. All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. The next one. And I love watching this movie over and over. So, all right. The next one. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love me.
Notting Hill.
Notting Hill.
No, that's why I don't know that one.
See, I was like, I didn't know if you guys would know that or not.
No,
What was her name? I know it was Julia Roberts. What was her name in that movie? It was Hugh Grant.
And
What was her name? Yeah, Ann something.
Um,
Right, yeah.
I
Ann
have
Scott.
I have that painting in my house.
Yes, I think it is Ann Scott. Yeah.
Or
That's-
it's something Scott. Anna Scott.
Anna Scott. So I have that the picture that I don't know, you haven't seen it,
No.
but the picture she gives to him at the end, I have one of those in my house because I liked it so much.
Notting Hill. It's like okay.
It's a Chagall painting.
Hugh Grant. Who
Yeah, Hugh
Yes.
Grant, Julia Roberts.
no.
Love Story.
lost me at both of
It's a
them.
good
all
one.
It's chick flick, but it's up there on my list. I like it. I mean, it's funny and yeah.
Yeah, it's. I
She's
mean,
doing the interview stuff. I know we're not reviewing this movie, and it's gonna be set here in a minute. What movie are we talking about? But I like the bit where he he's trying to interview her, and he's lying about who he is, right? Or not trying to interview her, but he's lying about who he is. He says he's from Horse and Hound magazine or whatever, and they're like, "Well, which part of the movie do you like?" And he has no idea. He hasn't seen this movie. He's like, I like the bit in space. Like, I don't know. It's pretty
right. All right.
Yeah.
Not a Hugh Grant fan. Like 9 Months is also good.
Okay.
Oh, what was the other one? The Christmas movie.
Oh yeah, Love Actually is
Love
really
Actually
good.
is really
I like that
good.
one too.
What was that movie he was in where he was? We just watched and I didn't.
It's a new movie coming out. Are you talking about the one that's coming
With
out?
Statham.
Statham. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's.
Yeah, the Operation Fortune or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
in that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And then the last one I have for today is I don't know that it's quoted, but when I heard it the other day, I just thought there's only one movie that could possibly come from. So let's see if y'all know it. I've never seen that. I've never seen anybody drive their garbage down to the street and then bang the hell out of it with a stick.
That's the
Birds.
Burbs.
I've never seen that.
That's the
Burbs.
Burbs. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to get one. Yeah.
You know,
just
I
watched that
know
this
that's
week.
something that no one probably quotes, but I'm like, you got to know
Well,
what
no,
that's
yeah.
from.
It was parked out front all week.
Yeah.
When we edit.
What movie are we reviewing?
We are doing. So welcome to the second season, apparently, which is
Just 4 people sitting around talking about movies.
4 friends in a movie. Not necessarily the movie that is on tap to be reviewed, apparently. So this time we're doing Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which was my pick, and I going in, I am a Trekkie, but I am not as hardcore as some of these Trekkies can be. So while I do have some knowledge of the universe and all of this, which I think is important to the setup of this movie, if there are Star Trek fans who are listening who are really looking for like a nerdy deep dive, you may be a little disappointed. But there are certainly Roddenberry podcasts out there that do that. I subscribe to some of them and they really go into it. So
And you enjoy that, or does it
I enjoy it, but
pull you out a little
like
bit?
for instance, just the prehistory of Khan in this movie, we could talk about for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I'm going to touch on some things that I think are important, but by no means there's a 3-book trilogy to the Khan story,
Right.
you know, that anyway,
And an episode from the original series.
yes,
where it
which
first started,
we
right?
will talk about very briefly because that is important. Anyway, so I got the blurb here along with the other stuff. So let me read the blurb and then we'll get into our sections. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. This is one potential blurb. As Admiral James T. Kirk and Captain Spock monitor trainees at Starfleet Academy, another vessel from the United Federation of Planets is about to try out the planet-creating Genesis device in a seemingly deserted portion of space. In the process, 2 of Kirk's officers are captured by Khan, played by Ricardo Montalban, an enemy Kirk thought he'd never see again. Once more, Kirk takes the Enterprise's helm where he meets Khan's ship in an intergalactic showdown. And I think that's pretty fair. I think that's fairly accurate as to what we're getting here.
What year was this released?
82.
82, yes.
82. I remember we had breakfast lunch with my mom here not too long ago, and I was telling her that we're doing this for the podcast. And the first thing she said was, Ricardo Montalban. Oh,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, all right. That's weird.
I didn't research it, but Sherry had some issue with Ricardo Montalban's chest in this movie.
Yeah, it was a prosthetic.
Okay, that's
That's what I heard, and so I was looking. I'm not gonna lie. Every time he was on screen, I'm looking, going, "Is that
the reason you have to
real?"
The reason you have to question because Ricardo Montalban has always been very swarthy and cut. I mean, he's not a slouch. I mean, he's,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, because he wasn't wearing prosthetic arms, right? No, those are his arms.
sure.
So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. It was hard to tell. It is for sure confirmed it was prosthetic because it was hard to tell.
That's what I read, and according
I'd always
to my
heard that.
notes,
Yeah, but I didn't know that.
All right. All right. Well, let's get into.
I was looking for the lines, everything. Like they did a good job.
No, and it's totally believable that it would be him because you know. All right, Money Critics fans. Okay, so this movie, and I think it largely is due to Star Trek fans, has what I call aliens type numbers, right? So 86% of the critics, 3.5 stars above, and 90% of the fans, 3.5 stars above. So this is, I think Aliens was like 90 and 94 or something. So this is right up there with Aliens, I think. It had a budget of $11 million, which surprised me. That seems low, and I'm kind of happy to see that. But $11 million budget, and it grossed worldwide almost $80 million, $79,818,000. The bulk of that, 99% of that, came as a domestic release. Only 110,000 international, which means they probably didn't release it international, which also surprised me because Trek is a universal phenomenon, almost like, you know, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine that there wasn't a worldwide appeal. So I didn't research it, but I don't know why they wouldn't have released that more widely international. Although in 1982, so Star Trek 1 came out in 77, which was only 10 years after the series ended. And this is 5 years, 6, 7 years later or whatever. So I'm not sure when the phenomenon of conventions started. I think it was shortly after the series, but I don't think it really took off as a fandom till a little later. So 82 may have still been fairly early.
Yeah, no, and we've talked about this before, and I guess we should at one point maybe research it and figure out when, the studios and, Hollywood started doing it. But talk about the international, like when did they really start shifting and going, hey, we can make a lot of money if we have a wider release, right? If we start using China, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because maybe they didn't, right? In 82, I don't know. And maybe they didn't, it just didn't, like you said, take off. I don't know. I feel like they definitely rely on it way more now than they used to.
It must not be in my notes, but I did have a note that I wanted to make. Okay, so this is Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, because Star Trek 1 is Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Right.
Which was the reason this is such a great sequel. And it is a great movie. I think it's solid from top to bottom.
Is it?
Okay. The reason this is such a great sequel is because the first one was so terrible. I think it was made by an artistic director who prettied up the screen, but it has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the original series or the Star Trek universe. I think it is horrendous. Now, I thought about that, and this was, I think, the Star Trek movie that fans were waiting for.
Sure.
And so this is, to me, almost a reboot of the franchise in terms of at least movies, right? Mm-hmm. So I consider this, like I have Star Trek 1. I rarely watch it. I don't recommend it. To me, this is the start of the Star Trek revitalization movies and this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Almost a Star Trek 1, the one that we wanted instead of what we got.
Right.
And I thought that's interesting because when the original series started, they came out with a pilot and it was like a 2-parter. It's called The Cage. And it was hard science fiction and it was very good. It didn't star Captain Kirk. It was the captain before Kirk, which now
it's Pike, right?
Pike, yes. Mm-hmm. And they have started Strange New Worlds to explore his story, and Strange New Worlds is amazing. But it got to the studio and the studio was like, well, where's all the action? This is too cerebral. This is too blah, blah, blah. We don't want to cancel the series. Go back and do another pilot. And so they had another pilot called Where No Man Has Gone Before, and that took off full of action. And so I'm like, in Star Trek's life, this has been the problem because there was a original episode as the pilot and it was canned for not being good. Then they came out with Star Trek 1 and it wasn't any good. And so they came out with Wrath of Khan 2 and that's where everything took off. So in both instances, the series and the movie, there was this initial start that was a false start almost. And then they went with the second one that really took off.
That's crazy. That just kind of shows you the people willing to bet on this and put in, no, if we do this right, Star Trek will work. We just have to do it right. I mean, think of how many TV shows or movies like don't get sequels or they get canceled, don't even get, called to season. They just do a pilot and the pilot is nobody likes it or whatever. Yeah, nobody picks it up. So that's crazy that, because Star Trek is actually, it's older than Star Wars too, which has always kind of amazed me.
Yeah, it's 64 to 67.
Yes, by quite a bit.
Now, it got canceled.
Yeah.
And this was really before they had an accurate metric because it got canceled because the metric they were measuring for viewership was not the one that was watching the show. After it got canceled, somebody's digging through the research. I don't know the whole story. And they realized, oh my God, this was a smash hit with this age group, right? But it was too late.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure the TV series was only 3 seasons.
3 seasons, yeah. 79 episodes.
That blew me away when I first.
Yeah, no, I thought, I guess I didn't realize that either. Because when I think of, Star Trek, I think of it basically, I mean, I know there's Next Generation and all that stuff, but I think of being a constant since the 60s. So that's
it was three. And really the first season, I think, has the best writing. So, and Star Trek fans will say this, but by the 3rd season, and I have to check whether that is the 3rd, but there are episodes like, some of the episodes get a little ridiculous and silly. Like there's one where it's called Spock's Brain, where I think Spock's brain is like out of his body and he has to talk. It's just, anyway, some of the writing is not up to par with say like the first season or whatever. Sure. But it was a hit with an age group that they weren't aware of but it was canceled. And so, cause almost immediately I don't know when the first convention was, but it was very shortly thereafter,
Right.
and fans were.
Yeah, I wonder if that 11 million budget that you mentioned for this one, for Star Trek 2, like I wonder if that, you said it seemed low to you, right? So maybe I wonder if it was low because the first one sucks.
Yeah,
they were like, we'll give it a second chance. We're not putting a lot of money into this thing.
Yeah, because like I said, 8-to-1 ratio, 80 million versus 11.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me again, what years were the TV series on?
It was like 64 to 67. It was 3
And
years.
so from 67 until when was the first
77
movie?
was
The first movie?
I think it was 77. 76, 77, something like that.
About 10 years later.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's the same cast.
Yes, but yes, it is. Yes. But Star Trek 1 is so.
Well, I don't remember seeing that one, but I'm just saying,
Even in this one, it's the same cast.
for them
from the
to
show.
have that, you know,
It's a big gap.
Well,
yeah.
conventions,
gap.
I think conventions had a lot, because certainly in the years following, conventions and fanship really, people were like, all these people are going to this convention, they'll probably go see a movie,
yeah, it's all about the money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now, to Chris's point, giving the movie another chance, I think that was back then. Now, I think with the attention span of people being 12 seconds, if something doesn't immediately ignite, they bail on it.
Sure.
And that's sad because I think things like Firefly were the victim of that. I think you
Right.
could rattle off any of your favorite. Netflix is notorious for this. That zombie show with the elephant.
They say they've never canceled a show that's a hit, sir.
Yeah,
That's what they say.
But they don't show the numbers to anybody.
Sure, they just have to look at it themselves, sir. They don't have to
Yeah.
justify
They don't even
anything.
show it to the producers.
No,
of
I'm
the
with you.
movies.
I'm with you. They do. Like,
It's
or
the-
now, like
No, it was a failure.
HBO
Santa
Max
Clarita
is
Diet.
dumping stuff. Like they have completed projects, like completed seasons,
Yeah.
season 3 of shows or movies, and they're dumping them without even like showing them. Like, all right, if you want to cancel a show, that's cool, but at least leave it on there,
Right,
Like, so
right.
people can watch
You
it.
will
if they
make
want.
your money back.
But they're
because
they're pulling it off the stuff and like
People will
where nobody
discover it.
ever it's getting thrown in a garbage can. That's crazy to me.
yeah.
It could be senior management of those places being like, I don't want that stinking up my tenure as
guess,
head of this
yeah.
I
department.
think Firefly Fox, the execs at Fox were
Yeah.
way guilty of that.
It's stuff like that.
It's nuts, man.
It really is. But again, it's all about money. It's all about
Yeah.
all that.
Sure. There's a couple notes before we get into the beats. Okay, so this is a little bit of nerdy deep dive, but you'll have recognized Chekhov in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Khan says, "You I know, for I never forget a face." And this is clearly a reference to the episode Space Seed of the original series when Kirk discovers him and his followers, wakes him up and first meets Khan. Chekhov, the guy playing Chekhov, was not part of the cast at that time
Oh, that's
on the
funny.
show. He did not join till later.
So they had a different Chekhov in the episode, or
Nope, there was no Chekhov.
Chekhov's not even in the
He
episode.
there was no,
So I recognize your face, even though you were never in the episode. Excellent.
yes. This I got from Memory Alpha, which is like, if you want to deep dive into Star Trek nerdom, Star Trek Memory Alpha is the place to go. Chekhov would likely have been now, so this is what I call the Chekhov chronometer, because he was not technically on the ship when Khan was there. So how do you explain this? The screenwriter says he had taken account for that and had Chekhov watch some historical tapes prior to meeting Khan in this movie. And the studio said, no, we don't want that. Change it to Chekhov having met Khan, which created this plot hole while he wasn't on the show at the time. Anyway, Chekhov would likely have been assigned to the Enterprise after the events of Mudd's Women, as Chekhov did not know of Harry Mudd. So that's another show in the series, original series. Although the character of Chekhov had not yet joined the cast during the first season, he must have been assigned in some capacity as an off-screen encounter with Khan must have occurred during his assault in Space Seed. So you have to assume that, okay, we didn't see Chekhov, but he must have been there because Khan says he was, but he was not originally part of the cast. Film writer Jack B. Sowards acknowledged this apparent inconsistency was not part of his final draft, but rather a change instituted by Nicholas Meyer. Sowards' script originally had Chekhov reviewing a library tape on Khan before his first encounter with him. The sequence was deleted and the dialogue in subsequent scenes was slightly reworked, creating the alleged plot hole. So yeah, there is this plot hole that he recognized, but there is no scene in Space Seed where you see Chekhov or that Chekhov sees Khan.
Well, even the deleted scene, which obviously sounds like the writer is, I guess aware of this, but even having the deleted scene of Chekhov reviewing old footage, that solves the problem of Chekhov recognizing Khan, but that doesn't solve the problem of Khan going, hey, I never forget a face. Like,
That's true. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, I mean, you want to enjoy the movie and not, get too, worried about it. Well, Khan says he was there because he recognized his face.
Well,
Enough said, right? But it is kind of weird.
Sulu is not on that show either.
Okay.
But in researching Sulu, he was on previous episodes as like a botanist or something.
Interesting.
So he is on the ship in previous episodes. And also, in fact, the first one, where No Man Has Gone Before, the second pilot. But he's not the helmsman or anything like that. So at least we can establish that he was, on board.
It's interesting. They also, but the other people were, right? So like, why didn't they just, instead of making it Chekhov, change out the person? Like,
Right,
make it Spock, make it,
Yes, Chekhov is on.
Scotty, somebody, you know what I mean?
He's now the second officer on another ship, the Excelsior, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, no.
So this story picks up with where is the original crew now? Well,
Yeah,
Spock
they're all
is the captain.
dispersed,
Chekhov is, so they're all dispersed, got different ranks, are all been promoted.
Sure.
But so they wanted Chekhov as part of the XO of the captain of the Excelsior to go. Anyway, we'll get into that in the setup or whatever. Okay, so those are some of the. I can mention this now. I was going to mention it when we talk about Khan's first appearance, but just for historical sake, this movie, the timeline of this movie is 15 years after the episode of Space Seed. So the events of Space Seed, this is 15 years later from those episodes and from that episode. And Khan, again, you guys are going to go to sleep. You're going to have a 3-book prequel about Khan. Okay, so Khan was a genetically engineered human, and in the 90s, him and his kind rose to power and took over the world. And Khan was like one of 5 princes or something who ran basically a fifth of the world. Because Khan will say in his first appearance, I was a prince and I had power over millions.
Yeah, and even mentioned the 90s. So
The 90s. So in 1996, the regular humans were able to overthrow these genetically engineered dictators. And Khan grabbed a ship called the Botany Bay, which is a deep space explorer ship. They had to go into cryo to travel, but stole a ship in 1996 and takes off to escape capture and this kind of thing with his followers. And then 200 years later, Kirk finds him. 15 years later, we're meeting him again in Wrath of Khan. Anyway, okay. Are we ready for the beats? I think we are. Any under preliminary? Like I said, even that is not scratching the surface about what you can.
I was going to say.
It's like Star Wars with Star Trek. You can
for sure.
complete nerd and.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that deep dive wasn't very deep, how deep are the deep
Well, there's
dives?
like literally 3 books that because it starts before Khan is even born. There's a character called Gary Seven who does make an appearance in some of the shows, and his blonde partner, I can't remember her name right now. She was in Young Frankenstein. Rolls in the Hay. What was her name?
Oh, Terry Gar.
Terry Gar plays his partner, and Seven is an alien who has come to Earth to make sure that humans don't F up the planet by making mistakes. So he corrects history throughout. Anyway, again, see what I'm talking about. So we're going to delete this, but Gary Seven and his partner Terry Gar. That was going to be a spin-off show, much like the X-Files with Mulder and Scully. But after the show got canceled, there was no interest in doing it.
Right.
But in the books, Gary Seven is trying to infiltrate the genetics lab that is engineering Khan. I'm sorry, guys. Khan. Anyway.
Well, I was going to say, as far as the Chekhov and all that stuff, me being a casual viewer of Star Trek, I had no idea.
No,
that
and
he
you
wasn't
wouldn't. And
on
you
the
wouldn't.
ship.
Tracks,
At the thing.
yeah.
He just said, I never forget a face. I'm like, okay, well,
We're good.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I appreciate that there's more to the story and that the
Yeah, but
writers
Oh,
have
we
tried
actually
to figure it out.
stopped the movie and went back and watched the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. I wanted her to see the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just all my life Chekhov has always been on the Enterprise.
Yeah, right. He's always been part of it.
So I just rolled with it.
Yes, and Sulu was there, but the cast as it is now, or was, really didn't form probably till like the 2nd season, maybe, or whatever. And this is an issue, like Kirk, Shatner and Takei do not get along. Even as recently as a couple months ago, they were sniping at each other over Twitter and shit, man. I mean, they do not like each other.
Yeah, Sulu, right?
Yeah, Sulu and
yeah.
Kirk. And Kirk has said things like, because he considers the real cast him, McCoy, and Spock, right?
Yeah.
He says these other two, sniping at Takei, really just followed along on our tails. They weren't part of the original, so they go back and forth.
Does William Shatner know that he's not a captain of a starship? Like, Is he aware that he is not Kirk?
He's been to
What?
space, though.
Thank you. That's what I was about to say. Sure,
wouldn't
stole my
call-
words. This man's been to space,
I
sir.
wouldn't call that space.
Yeah, well, I would like to meet Captain Kirk. I would not like to meet William Shatner.
I'm sure he's a swell fella.
All right. Did I do the thing for the beats? I didn't. Let's do
No.
the beats. Okay, so getting into this, the opening image. I think the theme and the opening image really, and the setup really establish what I think are the themes and motifs of this movie. I think fairly well, and I think there's a good closing image to this as well. The opening image I have, it opens up. Kirk is now an admiral, and he's relegated to training and inspections and paperwork and things admirals do, right? And he is not happy about that. But he will say things like, we all have our appointed duties and this kind of thing. So he's accepted it as it is, but he's not happy about it. There's a lot of time taken to I think, set up how ill-suited he feels being an admiral. Spock says to him early on that it is a waste of materials for you to be an admiral, that you should always been a captain.
That's not early on. That's like 40 minutes into this thing.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't time it, but it's
there's-
not 5 minutes or 10 minutes in. It's
Well,
way
it's when
late.
when he has to assume command almost.
Yeah, that's during their debate on should he take command
Yes.
or whatever.
Bones will say,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No, okay. Well, I didn't write down the times except for like the midpoint, I think maybe. Spock will say, Bones will say he should never have taken that promotion.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that-
earlier when they're in
Yeah.
his apartment. Yeah.
His destiny was always the captain's chair. And Kirk himself will bitterly say, we all have our assigned duties, Bones. Yeah,
Right.
and it's his birthday.
Damn it, Jim, this is your birthday. Why are you acting like a dick?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I don't want to be lectured, Bones.
Am I wrong in this? I think I read the notes yesterday. It was Captain Kirk's birthday.
Yes.
And he was turning how old?
Well, Shatner is 41 in this movie. He was born in 41. This is 82.
right.
So if it's equivalent age, he's in his early 40s.
I think I said I saw in the thing it was like 38. It was his 38th birthday.
Oh, okay. All right.
Captain Kirk's 38th birthday. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's already had a career. Now he's an admiral.
Yes.
Like, he's
Yeah,
not
no,
really
he-
that old.
Right,
he
yeah,
still
exactly.
looks
I
fit,
had
like-
the same thought. Like, yeah, like 38, and he's acting like he's fucking 68. Like, and
Exactly.
that threw me for a loop too. Now, granted, I didn't watch the series, right? And so I guess that makes sense. Like we were just talking about, there's a 10-year gap, right? So they had to, I guess, between the series and when the movie started picking back up. So I guess they had to address for that. But like, I couldn't help but thinking, wait a minute, this is the second one.
Yeah.
And he's already old or feels old. They made 4 more of these fucking things.
Right, well-
and he's old now? Like, well,
He's still like
Yeah,
like Shatner still looks fairly trim in this movie.
oh, for sure. Like,
Like, you know,
it was more about the character and where they made him feel old, I guess, as opposed to, because he does a lot of sitting around going, I'm old.
Right, well,
like,
I-
and it really,
And
think
that's why
skin.
we
It really pushes the point of he shouldn't be behind a desk. He shouldn't be pushing papers.
Right.
Captain Kirk, if he's not captaining, he's
Right.
antiquated because he came across to me as like a 60-year-old
Right.
man.
And he does we'll get into it, but he'll say later, I feel old and worn out. And
Yes.
I think that's the last few years of sitting behind a desk when he'd rather be out there. And,
Yeah.
you can feel that way. Because as Spock said, it's a waste of material. Like he's being wasted. Like,
Sure.
and so he's just, at this point, he feels like he's just counting out the years,
Yeah. Was he an admiral in the motion picture one, or was he still
He
captain?
wasn't captain of the Star Trek. There's some other guy, captain of the Star Trek, captain of the
Enterprise.
Enterprise, captain of the Enterprise.
You're going to get hate mail for that,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah,
He wasn't captain of the Millennium Falcon.
yeah, right. He wasn't captain of Enterprise at the time, and basically seizes the Enterprise to the chagrin of the previous current cat.
He does that a lot, huh?
Well, wait till Star Trek 3 when they steal it.
Yeah, he does that here too,
Yeah,
But Spock's like, no, I'm good. I'm Vulcan. Like, don't have,
yeah, because
Don't have an ego.
Spock is the acting captain of the Enterprise right now on this training mission. Okay, so that's the opening image, the theme, and I think
Wait, what's the opening image? Him sitting around going, I'm old.
the idea that he's being wasted and he feels old.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Kirk, his resting state now. I feel old,
He had a cool opening shot though, when he comes in with all the blue light and the smoke and stuff.
Oh yeah. No,
That was cool.
Oh, because, they're testing
The
Christy
Kobayashi
Alley.
Maru. Yeah.
yes. Again,
Is that the first time that has been seen?
it's a known
Or
thing.
was it in the show before?
I want to say this probably referenced.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact. Again, like I said, I'm like a middle of the road nerd about this stuff.
Well, I'm even worse. I know
It
the ones
is
with
known,
Ty
and I don't know
Wright.
if it's
I don't know outside of that a whole lot.
Yeah.
so. So I remember that from the ones with Pine, of course. But
Right. It is known that Kirk cheated
yep,
to win, and he's
He did something that was never done before.
Right.
That's what he said
Yes.
he did.
Yes.
adapting the
He doesn't believe in no-win scenarios, and I don't
very,
like.
very cool.
Yes.
It
But
played
there
well.
is-
It
but-
played well here. It plays well in the. I constantly compared it to the ones with Pine, which is
Sure.
really unfair, but I did.
Well, I think Pine does a really good job.
And I like the
And Spock, amazing.
Into Darkness a lot. So I was constantly comparing these
Yeah,
two.
I need to
right?
go back and watch that because that is also Khan, and I'm not sure.
And the cons are different, but I mean, I compared those a lot. But yeah, obviously the Kobayashi Maru. I've forgotten that this one started that way with
Yes.
that.
And I don't know if this is the first time you find out that Kirk cheated. I don't think we knew that Kirk cheated prior to this movie, so this may be where that legend came from. I don't know. I'd have to look. But it is a no-win. Like you cannot win the Kobayashi
Yeah,
Maru
right.
test.
It's like a morale thing. Or not a morale.
It's
like
to test
character.
how you would act in the face of death,
Yeah,
which goes back to the theme of this movie, I think. Aging and how we deal with death. Because he will say to Saavik, introducing Kirstie Alley, which I was reminded of. I'd
yeah. I
forgotten.
forgot she was in that until I watched the trailer. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Her first movie. And he will say, what I think is part of the theme, how we face death is equally as important as how we face life or whatever, because that's the point of this Kobayashi Maru test. How you, if you
Right.
don't rescue the people, they die. If you do rescue them, you die. So it's a no-win situation, which Kirk does not believe in. So I think this touches on the theme. I think I said almost without a doubt it is uttered by Kirk when lecturing Saavik how we deal with death is at least as important as how we deal with life. And so I say taking the promotion is almost a form of death for Kirk, because later he will say, he's worn out. Stasis equals death. Catboy will say, well, Kirk is static right now.
Yeah.
And to me, I think this is a form of death for him. It is his birthday, which is another mark of aging. Bones gives him a pair of glasses. It is established in this timeline that he could have had some kind of, like, the glasses are not an option needed in this future. But I think Bones is being nostalgic here with Kirk, maybe even a little bit of a joke.
Well, but at the end, the glasses are broken,
Yes.
right? And he does like as you age or whatever.
Right.
Like,
He can't, his vision is failing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
You're saying he could have a procedure or something fix that.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Geordi in Next Generation can't see it all, but he's got these prosthetics.
The visor, yeah.
Yeah. Kirk will say in this opening scene, galloping around the galaxies for the young. So there's this constant hammering. And then Bones says, get back in the captain's chair before you really do get old, become one of these relics or whatever. Like I said, Shatner was 42 at the time, but James is saying he saw 38 for the age of Kirk. Either way, it's the circumstances that are wearing him down and making him feel like he's older perhaps than... Now, I did find it interesting in the setup. Now, okay, so we all know the ending of this movie. Spock dies.
What?
Yeah, what? And this is, like, it still gets me. Like, if you're a fan of Star Trek at all, and Spock is so beloved, I have, like, to me, Spock is my favorite character and always has been.
Okay.
I still like, oh, no, Spock. But in a bit of foreshadowing, and I didn't really catch this maybe when I'd seen it the first couple times or whatever, a long time ago, but Kirk will walk out. Because in the Kobayashi Maru, they all simulate what would happen and things blow up. And so the bridge crew dies. And so Spock feigns death or whatever.
Right.
And Kirk comes out and says, oh, I thought you died. And I'm like, there it is.
Right.
Because by the end of the movie,
Sure.
they're going to be together. And he really is. He says, aren't you dead? And it's a bit of foreshadowing. And I didn't catch that right off. I gave the backstory about the 90s already. All this is sort of established in the setup. Kirk is an admiral doing an inspection of a refitted Enterprise, which is going on a training mission for cadets. Chekhov is on another ship. And so there's this science experiment, the Genesis, which can create planets out of nothing, life and everything. And that's what they're testing. Chekhov on his ship.
I really liked Bones' rant when he finds out about it,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They created life in, the myth, according to myth, created life in 6 days. We can do it in 6 minutes.
Yeah, no. I think Urban really
nailed it.
nails.
Yeah. And I never would have
Space
picked
is
Carl
sickness
Urban
and,
to play.
is sickness and death or something. Right. Anyway, Yeah, I was telling Sherry, so Bones is always, because, you green-eyed Vulcan, blah, blah, you
Right.
green-blooded Vulcan. These two are always going back and forth, but they're beloved friends on the show. Anyway, I was telling Sherry, I said, in terms of archetypal characters, you got Kirk, but Bones is Kirk's heart and Spock is Kirk's brain. That's why you have these two, and they're so diametrically opposed. It's almost like the X-Files where, Scully and Mulder, Scully is the brains and Mulder is more the intuitive heart of, so you have these characters and it's archetypes, right? They're playing certain roles, whatever.
Can I ask a question about the Genesis?
Yeah.
I think I asked you this in the movie and then totally forgot. And I may sound like really dumb here. What was Khan wanting with that? Was he going to take it to Earth and kill everything? Why was he really wanting
it was
that?
either to make a new planet for himself or use it as a weapon, because he gets totally consumed with
Because
revenge on
if you
Kirk.
used it, say you took it to Earth and used it, it would kill
It
everything.
would
on
wipe
there.
out all life and restart it.
And then, yeah, okay.
Yes.
So
It kills everything that's there and restarts it.
Because that's where they were looking for a completely desolate planet
Yes.
with nothing on it.
No, not even a
yet,
microbe.
he took it and made a planet out of absolutely nothing,
Well,
right?
yeah, that was not his intention was blow the shit out of Kirk with it.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but there was nothing out there.
Yep. No,
and
I had
it made a planet.
I had a problem with that as well. Like they established, I feel like that you needed a desolate planet to create it. You just gotta, it's gotta take the.
Well, there was the nebula, so there was matter there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I felt like you needed a planet. I'm not sure. I felt like you needed, and maybe we just missed it, but I felt like you needed a planet. And then, I was like, wait a minute, we got this fucking planet coming out of nothing? There was nothing there. Wait, what?
yeah.
I think that was
cool.
just by accident, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was not Khan's intention to make a planet.
No.
He was using
No,
it.
but it's rules of the world. Like they established, you got to have a moon. Like even in the little video they showed us, you take this moon, blah
Right.
blah. Well,
Well,
you can't.
except-
it doesn't say or empty fucking space, and you can create something. It was
Right.
Well,
I was
maybe
like,
they failed
and
in
I'm
their
sure-
research then. Maybe her research, she should have just
Yeah.
That's it.
blown it up out.
That's it.
See, this is
Yep, that's it.
this
am I
is,
She's a
thinking
shitty
too much?
scientist.
and I'm sure there's a podcast where four nerds are sitting around debating this.
right.
No, it was a nebula.
Not these four nerds.
Not because, like I said, dude, we are trying to get through mud here, and this is,
Yeah.
like I said, with,
I mean, I don't mean to rag on it. I know it's a beloved thing, but
Well,
yeah,
I'm
I
going
had
with
an
the
issue
nebula.
with it. I was like,
Well, again, back to my ignorance of it, I just didn't know better. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, you're
I was
along for the
enjoying
ride.
the movie. I was
right.
Yeah,
Because it will play a big factor in Star Trek 3. Have you all seen Star Trek 3,
Yeah.
Search for Spock?
yeah.
You haven't seen it, Chris?
no.
Oh, man, okay.
Well, okay.
Because there's a setup for it in this movie.
Well, to show you how
Right at the end, yeah.
Yes.
unknowing I am, I thought you said it was the sun, and I thought, oh, is that Spock
Well,
floating?
Spock's on the planet.
I know, but I thought, why do they keep showing that thing glowing? Is
Well,
that
I think
Spock?
it's to show that,
It's the sun.
yes.
Yeah.
There
And
may
I
have been a
didn't-
star there already because the nebula was there and now the nebula's gone. So we don't know what else was in the nebula. That's the thing though, because the nebula, and we'll get to it at the end, but it's almost, we'll get to it at the end, but the nebula is an area, almost like a fog for a ship at sea, right? I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they were. Okay, that's what
Yeah,
they
no, I
were
got
in.
that because when they were hiding from each other and trying to shoot each other and they couldn't see and
Yeah.
all that stuff. That
So
was
what
you
to
couldn't
your
see-
point, yeah, it wasn't just empty ass space. There was a nebula there, and then
who knows what it was
disappeared.
covering up?
Yeah.
It could have been covering up a dead moon, Chris. So
Yep.
Oh,
it's
that's
true. You can't
true.
see shit, so it was in there.
Yeah,
it's
right.
amazing they didn't run into it. All they're chasing
you
around in there, you know.
yes, we'll get
Right
to,
on top of no, that's a moon, sir.
Yeah,
it's
that's
too
not
big
a
to
space
be.
station,
Yep,
that's
there
not
you
a
go.
moon.
There you go.
That's not a moon. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna,
See, there you go with the lines.
that's right.
All right, I'm sorry. As your worst.
Yeah, that was okay.
That's a good question, Sherry. I had the same problem. Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, so I've already talked about the history, the 90s, blah blah blah. All right.
It wasn't logical to me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Are you out of your Vulcan mind?
Right. Didn't Skywalker kiss his sister? I don't know. All right. This
That's
is
for
what.
another podcast, sir.
Okay.
Did and was happy about it too. That's
Sure.
That's the messed
Listen,
up part.
you got a hot sister, you go with it, right? I mean, anyway. Now, Khan will talk about his wife because I already went through a lot of the setup as far as the history, but Khan will talk about his wife. Well, there's some debate about who that is, but at the end of Space Seed, he leaves with a member of the crew who is a woman who has fallen in love with him, and her, and she goes down to SETI Alpha 6, SETI Alpha 5 with him, and that presumably is the wife. Why they don't mention her by name, I don't know, because it was clearly established in the show.
Yeah, right. or shower. Like I'm thinking, like I mean, it tracked pretty well. Like I mean, you got it. He's pissed at Kirk.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, it might have. I just not thought about this, but like have a scene of him, holding her fucking picture or a locket or something, right? That just a reminder of kind of what's driving him. Because it does seem like we were talking about a minute ago, like he definitely becomes completely consumed by Kirk and revenge, and I'm cool with that. But yeah, I guess somebody had asked, sure he did, what were they going to do with Genesis? Because his lieutenant or whatever, the blonde guy,
Yes.
he tells him, basically at one point tries to cry him off of Kirk and say, let it go. We got the Genesis. Because I thought, I don't think they were clear about what he wanted it, but I thought, they established he's living in this shithole at the
And now
beginning.
he's got a ship.
And he's got a ship, and he can create any fucking planet he wants.
Right. Go.
Out of, space or nebulas or anything. So,
Yes.
anyhow, he can create. I thought, fucking go and live your life on this paradise or whatever.
Yes.
But
Well,
anyhow,
to me,
I get it. Revenge that's fine. Like, I didn't have a problem with him losing his mind on Kirk and giving up that. Like, that's cool. But,
sure. No, and to my mind, this is like thank God Hitler did not listen to his generals. If Hitler had listened to his generals, it might be a different world today. Don't go into Russia. Don't do that. This is not sound battle strategy. Like generals who knew strategy and tactics said this is not the way you should go. And Hitler was like, I'm Hitler. So, and thank God he did, because he basically sowed the seeds of his own destruction, right? This is the problem with dictators. And thank God they're stupid. They are absolutely maniacal to the point of being, tunnel vision. And that's what Khan, I think.
sure.
Khan had everything.
Well, it was very similar as the Moby Dick and all that
Sure.
stuff, that he's been marooned on this planet. He's been reading all this literature.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah. No, the Moby Dick's
like
in there. They
he
show the book,
is-
and
he is
he's
Ahab.
going after that whale for sure.
And
Yeah,
he even
that's-
says it at the end, with my last breath,
I strike at thee, I spit at thee.
yeah,
yes.
all right, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah, the Moby Dick thing is because I saw that Moby Dick thing there, and it never even occurred to me.
That whole shelf of books is like revenge stories.
It probably is. And he is super.
Pause it and wrote them down. I saw Moby Dick and then some others, but I don't remember what they were now.
Yeah, but he is like Khan is super. He's way smarter than Kirk, and we'll talk about this. But Kirk is cunning and resourceful. Anyway, we'll get into that. Kirk is thrilled to be back on the bridge, even if it is just as a visiting admiral.
Because now they're going on the Enterprise to do an inspection before they go
and
off.
a 2-week or 3-week training
Yeah,
mission.
and he checks out the engine room or whatever, and then he's quickly like, fuck this, I'm going to the bridge.
Yeah,
I'm
right,
checking it out.
right.
Yeah.
No, he only wants to be
What
one
about
place.
the rest of the inspection, sir? Later.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 3-week training mission, just, routine. They get the call. So Chekhov and Terrell down on the planet get infected with this
Some
parasite-
earwig things,
earwig
man.
thing, and make
That
them
was
highly
cool. I
suggestible.
like it.
And so they become the tools of Khan, who goes to Regular One where the science is and captures Genesis device and so
They're big helmet things, though, right? To protect them from the atmosphere or the elements or whatever. It reminded me of Spaceballs a lot, though, because they're very,
Yeah.
very big.
Well-
I mean, Spaceballs was later, but I don't know. It's,
when they use them in the original series, it's like a cloth sack over their head. It's absolutely
Yeah.
low
that's funny.
budget. Anyway.
Yeah, I like the
Well,
earwig stuff.
did you go over the story just real quick? Back up half a second. We didn't go over what Khan told Chekhov as far as we put you on City Alpha 6.
Yes.
This was City Alpha 6. This blew up. Now the planet's uninhabitable.
Yes, Chekhov. They think they're on a different planet. They think they're on
Right.
SETI Alpha
5.
5.
Yeah. They were on a moon.
Yes, they think they're on
They
SETI
marooned
Alpha.
on 5, but then 6 blew up or whatever, right? Or did I have it
Yes.
reversed? And
No, they were on SETI Alpha 5, I believe, and 6 blew up, decimating 5.
Yeah.
And so they think
Chekhov thought they were on 6.
yes,
Yeah.
they didn't. You didn't expect to see me, infects them and learns of Kirk and uses them as tools to get the Genesis device off the science station. And Chekhov, under the influence of Khan, is telling the science station that no, Captain Kirk has ordered.
Admiral Kirk has
Has ordered complete turnover of all Genesis materials. This sends them in a tizzy. They call Kirk. Kirk doesn't understand bad communications, but has been ordered by Starfleet to reroute to find out what's going on with this top secret thing. And regulations state that the senior officer then takes control. He takes control of the Enterprise, which is what
what he's wanted.
what he's wanted. I say they warp. They go to warp 5, and I'm calling that the break into 2.
That's what I was gonna say too. That like that emergency distress call or whatever.
Yeah.
Boom, off into Act 2.
Warp 5 into Act 2. We do get
there's like a lot of there's like double bumps and stuff, right? Because the amount of time that passes between when Chekhov
yes.
gets captured by Khan and some earwig stuff, and then Kirk taking command and
Yes.
going to Warp 5. Like, there's a lot of
Yes.
time in between.
Yes,
It's not, I guess, the beats are there, but the structure is not very tight.
no, it is not.
Yeah.
It is not. And some are very quick.
I always looked at these older movies kind of like Rocky or whichever that don't usually have the structure we're looking for.
Sure.
I basically look at it as everybody was introduced. We all kind of know what's going on, what needs to happen, and then boom, break into two.
Yeah, because
That's usually how I look at it.
Sure.
this is almost like a set of reboots. So they need to establish where all these beloved
Right.
characters are now.
Yeah, no, I was cool with that. That was all part of setup. It just seemed like it just
You know,
it moved
it
really
is-
slow to me.
It did. There was a big bulk of material before we really, and I don't know how they filmed it, but I thought about this when I'm watching. There is not a single scene where Khan and Kirk are in the same room.
Mm.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay,
It's true.
because Khan is always on the Excelsior, I think it is.
I think it's resilient, right?
Yeah, maybe it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But so they talk to each other.
Yeah, they to the screen and stuff.
yes. Which
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You're right. That's interesting.
yeah. Anyway, Kirk must take command over, but Spock is the acting captain, and so Kirk is a little sensitive about ruffling Spock's feathers. Spock is like, "You make mistake, Admiral. Ego does not bother me." And so we get the setup here in this scene of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, which obviously will come into play
Mm-hmm.
later. They warp five into Act 2. The audience is given, so that now you have this little bit of, to make sure you know what the Genesis device is, Spock and Bones don't know about it, so let's watch this video, right? Which is a vehicle to show the audience what is at stake here. Because it is top secret, I
I
guess.
felt like it was well done.
Yeah, I know, I didn't
as-
hang up about this, because it's,
Yeah.
as an admiral, he would have knowledge that,
I didn't like the when it was retinal scan, and then it went to like this photograph of him instead of it like scanning like his face.
I
while
didn't
he's
even pick
sitting
up on
there.
that.
It was weird.
I
Like
did, yeah.
it wasn't a shot close up of his face sitting there
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the light in his eyeball.
Yeah.
It went to like this fucking still photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a mugshot. It was not good. And I was like, oh, what is that?
I do not like their uniforms in this.
Those fucking pants, man.
Pants,
the
the
pants,
popped collar,
Yeah.
these big baggy.
And they always have the pants where they're tucked in the boot and then they flare out right before they go into the boot.
Ugh,
Does this the older Star Treks always have that?
In the original series, they were like that.
Really?
In Next
I don't remember
Generation,
'em.
they are longer.
And they're more sleek and
Yes, I like their uniforms infinitely better. I almost like every uniform better
Yeah.
than the.
yeah.
You guys are paying too much attention.
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
what I'm saying. The nerdum. So,
I mean, thankfully,
I like the top part, I guess, with all the
yeah.
you know,
it's awesome that I'm sure
The pants
costume
annoyed me.
designers around are punching the air. Like, yes, they
They
notice
noticed the
us.
fucking pants.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
You didn't.
I didn't.
No
pay
opinion
attention.
whatsoever on
I
any of that,
honestly,
huh?
I was just in the movie enjoying it.
No, I
It's
did
really
too, but
weird.
but
No, it didn't pull me out or anything. I just every time they had like wider shots and I saw those fucking pants, I was like,
yeah, no, I
nope.
Mhm.
am not a. I
I've
told
had that
Sherry,
thought before though. Yeah, I'm with you. Like
Not a fan
Next
of
Generation was cooler, and then the ones with Pine, those were fine too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even the original series, they still had the pants and the boots and all that,
Weird,
but
yeah, I just didn't like the way they looked.
yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, and
Well,
there's
that
the
one-
hairdos. This is '80s too, but early '80s with the hairdos in this movie too. Pretty
Yeah.
rough.
that perm. Yeah, that's what I said. Oh, he's got the perm in this one.
Yeah.
No, I did like the jack or his top. It reminded me of our marching band uniforms.
Okay, well,
That's how you know
I wouldn't use that
he's
as
frustrated. He pulls it open. Oh, Kirk is
Right.
frustrated.
Right, well, and
Well, I asked
they
him-
expose the white so that the bloody handprint can be on that
Sure.
part later because it's
Oh.
red everywhere else, right? If he doesn't open it, then it's red on red. You can't see it.
Maybe he's exposing his heart.
Well, I was asking,
go,
does that
James.
mean he's on duty or off duty?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I was like, what? Why? does
Even like he
close
has it off, and then later I'm skipping ahead, but later he has it off. He's reading the book, whatever. At the end, when David comes
Yeah.
to him, and he puts it back on to talk to him, I'm like, "You're in your fucking quarters. I'm not putting that fucking
Well,
thing
he,
back on."
he said he's going back to the, like, I got to go back to the, he wants to avoid,
The conversation,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
yeah, but I don't know.
yeah, anyway, that's nerdum. I did not like these. Anyway, Project Genesis. Now okay, I'll say this in one sentence and we'll move on. Project Genesis is being touted because of overpopulation and poverty. That's fine. And I had to look this up, but obviously there are replicators in Star Trek. Replicator is like a microwave. You tell it what you want and it replicate anything you want out of existing matter, food and everything. In Next Generation and onward, they tout the replicator as the cure for poverty and money. Nobody uses money in Star Trek and there's no poverty because everybody can get a replicator and replicate their food, it's almost like a 3D printer at that point.
Right.
I looked it up, and replicators were in existence in the Star Trek universe at the time, but not adopted by Starfleet until the Next Generation. So they get a pass on this poverty. Again, so this is what I'm
We've
talking
cured poverty. Now it's time to go to Starfleet.
Yeah. Anyway, so poverty and stuff was solved.
Which that's funny because it's like
Later
backwards. Like typically the government has the toys first before they hit, the
Yeah.
public, right? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, if you can figure out a way to feed hundreds and hundreds of people in deep space with a replicator, that might be the first thing you put
Sure.
on the ship.
and in Next Generation, it's very much touted.
Right.
And
I mean, we had another crew fucking starved to death because we didn't have a damn replicator on board. This is bullshit, gentlemen.
Replicator's
When are we-
broken. We can't make another replicator.
right.
We should have made a replicator before it broke.
Yeah. So,
Should have brought a backup
generation.
replicator to a
and
replicator.
Seventh generation replicator.
right. and Genesis is never mentioned again, as far as I know, as a usable thing in any other Star Trek movie or show. Like you would have thought, okay, well, we just make planets everywhere.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, that's the other thing too that I thought about, like with the poverty and stuff, and they talked overpopulation, right?
Yes. Which I can't imagine because well, anyway.
Strange new worlds, right? Like
Yeah, literally
there's
unlimited
millions of
worlds.
fucking planets out there that haven't been and aren't in. I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't mean they're not inhabited, I guess, but like what? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I thought that was weird to me.
And then, well, if you take it a step
Like,
further,
I get
okay,
Earth is very overpopulated,
we've
but
made this, desolate moon, desolate planet into a thriving place for people, for human civilization. Let's get some people off of Earth. Well, who do you get off of Earth?
Yeah.
Like who do you pick? Is
Yeah,
it volunteer basis, or is it nope? This group in Asia
Yeah.
gets to go.
Yeah, we
to
don't-
New Asia.
right.
That's a little. I don't know. I don't think that too deep into the Star Trek politics part of it.
Well, like in Firefly, terraforming is a thing, and they terraform planets because of overpopulation on Earth, I think maybe, but then it becomes part of the government, not the Empire, I don't know what they call it, I can't remember, but the brown shirts are Mal and his bunch.
I want to say the Foundation, but that's not right. Is
Yeah.
it? Not the Foundation.
Anyway,
What is
so
it
they
called?
do terraform or Genesis planets
Mm-hmm.
in Firefly.
I mean, it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The note is replicators technically existed and were used around 100 years prior to the original series, but it was not acquired by the Federation until much later. Anyway, nerdum. Okay, fun and games. Now the fun and games I find is very, very short in terms of like maybe one battle is how I pegged it.
Yeah, there's one phone in one game.
There's one fun in one game. As far as I can tell, Khan draws first blood, but Kirk still at this point does not know it's Khan. Who is it? He says things. Who is this? Who's firing on us? Through Kirk's cunning and his ability to cheat death, something he will chide himself for at the end, he disables Khan's ship and inflicts damage of his own, forcing Khan to flee to the midpoint false victory. So there is this battle between Khan and Kirk that is a fun and game.
Right. Because Khan's on the ship that Chekhov came
The Resilient,
from.
Yeah.
Resilient.
Yes.
So they don't know. They just think it's the Resilient
and
being
in fact,
They're
friendly.
ignoring the comms, and they're not doing anything on
what's
screen.
going on?
Yeah, he
It's a-
doesn't know
it's
who
a-
it
it's a-
is. It's a
it's an
Starfleet
ally,
ship.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, had they listened to Savick, and he says that you go right on keeping quoting regulations,
Right.
They-
And the earwig stuff is fun and games, but it's just early.
Yeah, I think
But
I think
that type
it's
of
a
thing.
setup.
Fun.
of the fun and games.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like fun and games, right?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
just early on.
I don't think it's
I
fun.
think that they just
it was pretty gross.
it was
Those close ups.
and right, the close-ups were a little dated. Like I think
well, it's just the
fun,
thought
though.
of something going in.
sure. I think they were really burdened by the setup of this movie because of what they had to get started and off the ground. First thing fans are going to know is, well, where are they now? Well, where's
Right.
Anyway, I have that as that fun and game, and the midpoint is calling a false victory because Kirk is forced Khan to flee.
Yeah.
Where
No,
Khan
I
thought,
had that as a midpoint as well.
Because they had. Wait, I think I'm misremembering. Did he damaged the Enterprise?
yes,
And then
the Enterprise.
they stalled just to get into his system and lower down the shields. Has that happened yet?
That
No,
made
that's later.
I think that's how he gets Khan to
To kind of flee.
Yes.
flee.
Yeah.
Yes, because the Enterprise only Scotty will say, "I can give you a couple of shots. That's all the power we have for, and we have no engines to flee or maneuver."
Right. Because they
And-
damaged the warp core.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so there is this safety precaution where each ship has a unique ID number, And to prevent enemies from taking over ships, another ship can enter that ID number into the computer and can then shut down the systems of the.
Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah.
And so but Khan does not know that. And later, Spock will say he's highly intelligent, but inexperienced and subject to two-dimensional thinking. And so that's when Kirk gets his ideas. So I'm calling that a false victory, which leads us to the bad guys close in. And again, fairly quick, I think. The crew of Regular One, the science station, they're all dead. They've been killed by Khan. There's this, it's almost a bumper sticker, phasers on stun, or whatever. Kirk will say that as they go in. Captain Terrell, who is still, and Chekhov, who are still under the influence, are being monitored by, unbeknownst to us at this time, are being monitored by Khan, listening in, and Khan is trying to get information. Kirk will use that. But Terrell, the captain, is under the influence and is ordered to kill Kirk, and kills himself rather than institute that order. And Chekhov is going mad because of the earwig thing.
Yeah, it incapacitates Chekhov.
Yes, it makes you highly suggestible, and then as it grows, drives you mad, and eventually it results in your death.
Right.
So I felt like they didn't deliver on that. Like that's what they set up, but I don't.
It does come out of Chekhov's ear
for no reason other than we can't kill Chekhov.
Right, right. And so I think I would have liked to have seen some kind of
take him to sick bay.
Yeah, Bones pulling out.
Yeah, exactly. Because they even tell him, Chekhov tells them, they put creatures in our ears, and Bones just puts his hand on his shoulder and goes, it's all right, man. What? No, you're Bones. Scanning his ass. That's what I was expecting him to start scanning him and go.
It's just going to be okay.
Right.
You're like,
I was totally waiting for. Good God, man! You've got an earwig in here.
Bones. It could have been
5 seconds to get this out or something, and that
could have been a scene where Bones really showed.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't.
Sure.
Kirk and his followers beam down to where some survivors of Regular One have retreated inside this barren moon, where the second phase of Project Genesis has been completed. It is revealed that Khan has been listening to Kirk and company through Captain Terrell's communicator. Now, as almost a setup from when Savick was quoting regulations, if you haven't established communications, you should raise your shields, even if it's friendly. Kirk has now taken that to heart, I think, because he doesn't know that Khan is listening, but he must assume that he is, and so he follows regulations and begins to talk in coded speech. 2 hours, 2 days, 2 days to 2 hours, in terms of how long. If we go by the book, Captain, it'll be 2 days, Captain, before we can get repairs. Kirk understands that as 2 hours. That's what it means. Nobody else does.
Smooth.
Yes. So it is later revealed that Kirk has been using coded speech. 2 days is 2 hours. Now, if we had a false victory, then all is lost has to be a false defeat. Yes. Khan is able to steal Genesis' device and leave Kirk marooned like he feels Kirk left him. And you have what has become a meme. I've seen this meme.
Yeah.
Khan, the Kirk.
But he's not, maybe I missed something, right? But because he's in the whole coded, speech talking stuff, he's not really marooned, right? Because I guess I missed something. You're giving me confused looks.
Well,
Spock comes back and saves him, and it wasn't days; it was a couple hours, right?
So Kirk is assured that it will be a couple hours.
Yeah, that he's got to hang out there, so he's not really being. Or am I confusing the stuff?
No.
Khan thinks he's going to be there for 2 days.
Yes, but Kirk is the only one at this point who knows it won't be because he's playing.
Yeah. His whole Khan is 100% over dramatic.
He stole Genesis and hasn't come down there to fight Kirk so that Kirk can defeat him. Khan is getting away at this point.
Okay, so he's just mad that he's getting away and got Genesis.
Yeah.
He's not really, because the way it plays is I'm going to leave you maroon like you did me. Khan,
I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to keep on hurting you. And
yeah.
I think Kirk,
because once they revealed, I was like, oh, so that totally, to me, stole the weight of the, of his Khan. I'm like, so he was just being over dramatic there?
I just figured he was coming to get him. That was God, I'm coming to kill you.
Okay. Didn't that happen right after the other guy shot himself? Maybe he was just.
Khan has inflicted damage and is getting away.
Yeah, he's just
at this point. Yeah. Now, is it?
Yeah, no, he does make a speech or whatever, but you can tell he's mad and upset, Kirk or whatever.
Yeah,
and yet I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think if he was truly marooned like Khan was, there is a little more power to that. Yes.
Yeah, and also 2 days is nothing, right? I guess.
But Khan could, because Kirk will use Khan's anger and wrath against him. You keep missing the target like a poor marksman. I'm down here, Khan. You're gonna have to come and get me, Khan. You know, so he knows that he can goad Khan, but here Khan is, I don't have to kill you. I can hurt you. I'm going to hurting you, and I think at this point, Kirk is certainly subject to his own bit of rage.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah.
And that's weird too. Like Khan's so hell bent on killing Kirk. He, wants this guy with the earwig to do it, and he's cool with that. Like if Terrell doesn't kill himself, he kills Kirk, and then Khan flies off and enjoys, his tropical
There is never a
location
scene
that
when
he
they're to get
creates.
I don't, because like if it ever came down to a fist fight, Khan would win. Although there is a fist fight in Space Seed, and Kirk is able to defeat Khan, not necessarily through physical strength, but through sneaky, cunning tactics and this kind of thing. Anyway.
Well, he likes to cheat, so.
Yes, he does not believe in any kind of no-win. Now Kirk is morose here. This is what I'm calling the Dark Night of the Soul. He learns of his son, and he says, what my life could have been. You didn't tell me I had a son, what my life could have been. A man he's listing all the things that are bothering him at this point. He learns of his son, his life that could have been. A man he hasn't seen in 15 years is trying to kill him, and he has a son now that seems happy to help him. Asked how he feels, he says, this is when he says, I feel tired and worn out. I'm having the dig deep down comes when he is shown how Genesis works. They go into the cave, and he's amazed. Now, while others are in the dark, Kirk is now a bit more happy because he knows that in 2 hours they're going to be on their way. And they talk about the Kobayashi Maru test, and we get the cheating and Kirk's philosophy. 2 hours later, Enterprise has enough power to beam them up and be on their way. And so this is where I'm calling the break into 3.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sherry, you want to say yeah too?
Okay.
Well, Chris was shaking his head, and
The breaking it. That's where I was.
And like I said, I think the beats here are not as solid as we would normally like, but it's not. I don't think it's subject to Catboy's beats predating them, this kind of thing. But I think they're there, but I think because this very quickly turned the whole last part is.
Yeah, because they get picked up and then he immediately starts. We have the Nebula chase through the fog stuff, right? That's all Act 3 for sure. That's the finale.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The castle is Khan. So this break into 3, they beam up. Again, the Enterprise is outgunned and can easily be outmaneuvered. But Khan doesn't know what Kirk knows, and Kirk uses subterfuge and cunning to defeat Khan. And this is where Spock will say, he's subject to two-dimensional thinking, and Kirk will use his rage. So you can, again, it's the point, Khan is highly intelligent, but allows his own passions to overrule his intelligence.
Right.
And Kirk is able to use this.
So, but like on the two-dimensional thinking thing, like Spock's idea, right? Like Spock was, like he said that to Kirk, knowing, all right, Kirk will figure it out, but like that's what Kirk did, what Spock meant, right?
Yes,
like
Kirk is Spock's brain, Bones is. So yeah, and then Kirk gets the idea of, because they make this maneuver.
They go up, right? They go up or down. Right?
I think it's Z minus down. So there is this.
Like that's what Spock was getting at, without just going, "Hey, why don't you fucking go?"
Right.
Like,
well, it's for a good first officer,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm just saying, like,
but there is this. Okay,
Kirk defeats Khan because of his friends, right? Where Khan's alone.
Oh yes, it's always.
I mean, that's always the way it works.
Spock and McCoy are his brains in his heart, and absolutely. So there is. I don't know. Nerdum, but so it's like when they'll give an order like 180 Mark 7. Okay, 180. So 180 is due south, but Mark 7. So you're going south, but you're going. So you're not just going straight down in space. You're sort of moving in a diagonal downward. So all that is directional in space. 180 Mark 7.
It really helped, just for clarification, it really helped for me to think of this as a submarine movie.
Oh, for sure.
We're going to get into that.
That's exactly
the way they were
what he
moving
said.
around and stuff.
Yes.
And
Up,
even when they
down,
turn at
forward,
times,
back.
seemed real
Yes.
slow, like a fucking, like a submarine or a big boat. And I'm like, and that bothered me a little bit. I'm like, you're in fucking space. Just zip around, turn around. Why are you moving so slow? But whatever.
Pretty much.
Well, because the Enterprise moved slow because they didn't have the engines to go fast. They could
No,
not.
you're right. Okay, you're right. You're right. Yeah, they move fast when they can. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
But yeah, it definitely in the fog stuff seemed
Yes.
like
Yeah.
two
So
submarines
Kirk
fighting
orders
or something.
this blah 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 Z minus. So basically descend.
Right.
Okay. Khan is driving around looking to like a
He's driving left and right.
left and right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has intelligence but lacks experience. Now James made an excellent point because the third act is a Run Silent, Run Deep submarine movie.
Yeah.
100%. And to the point of everybody being quiet and the ships in silence of space stalking each other. I thought it was very effective.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Way to do things. Kirk does say of Khan, just to harken back to what we were saying, he says, I'll say this for him, at least he's consistent, making the same linear thoughts over and over again out of,
Right.
Anyway. Yeah. I have written down at this point, this battle has turned into a very suspenseful Run Silent, Run Deep submarine warfare scenario. Exactly what James is saying.
Yay.
Experience and cunning. Experience and cunning trumps sheer intelligence and rage. And Enterprise disables Khan's ship. They prepare to board. They're going to capture Khan, but Khan, with his last breath, spits at thee and triggers the Genesis device. Enterprise does not have the engines to go to warp. So it's good. The jig is up, and Kirk is facing death. He doesn't like no-win scenarios, and so at this point, Spock does him a solid, right? Spock leaves the bridge and goes down to the radiation-filled chamber and fixes...
He does many a solid, not just Kirk.
You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is the High Tower surprise and the execution of new plan, what I'm calling a tearjerker for Star Trek fans everywhere. Spock, unbeknownst to Kirk, leaves the bridge and fixes the engines, allowing the Enterprise to escape Khan's kamikaze maneuver. Khan's kamikaze, that's hard to say. Kirk congratulates Scotty, because at this point, well done, Scotty, because it's always more power, and
Right.
Anyway.
Scotty's squeezed out a couple extra
Yes.
whatevers.
And then the very somber McCoy, Jim, I think you need to come down here. And at this point, I'm reaching for the Kleenex. Always. Prior to entering the radiation-filled chamber, now, this is the setup for the third movie.
Yep.
Spock melds with McCoy for and he says, remember, and then goes into the chamber after he, zaps him. That will be essentially the setup. And I'd have to look, and maybe you guys know if they had planned a Star Trek 3 prior to the ending of this movie or knew they were going to make a 3. Because if they had never made a 3, then Spock is dead, and nobody's happy about that.
Well, I think from the notes that I read, Leonard Nimoy didn't want to be a part of this movie until he found out that his character would die at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 3 or whatever because of the success of the second one.
Yeah. Because he directed 4, I think.
Yeah, I think he came back because he could direct
Yeah.
and write or whatever it was. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
At that point.
At some points, Leonard Nimoy had some issues with his character as Spock because he was an actor, and he wrote a book called I Am Not Spock, and then he wrote like a book or something way later saying I am Spock, coming to terms with his legacy as being Spock and this kind of thing. So yeah, prior to entering the radiation-filled chamber, Spock melds with McCoy saying, remember, then this bittersweet moment, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one I've always been and I have been and always will be your friend. What did you think of my solution? The no-win scenario, live long and prosper, Spock out. Spock is buried at sea, so to speak. So the castle is Khan, and Khan has disabled them, and even in his death is going to be able to defeat Kirk. So that's essentially what I'm calling the High Tower surprise. And the new plan is Spock
fixing the engine,
fixing the engines,
taking a lethal dose of radiation while
absolutely.
doing it.
Yes. Spock is buried at sea, so to speak, on the newly created Genesis planet. And then in light of this new life from death, Kirk says he feels young, bookending our, I think nicely bookending the opening image. His closing image, fixing his opening image, and setting up Star Trek 3 or whatever.
Yeah, because in Star Trek 3, they then...
That's
spoilers.
The search for Spock, right?
Search for Spock.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's, Kirk is still not in command of the Enterprise in Star Trek 3, as I understand it. And he tells McCoy to remember. Spock says, remember, he has implanted his chakra or whatever, his spirit in McCoy. Okay. And McCoy will then have to go to Vulcan so that Spock can move on into the Vulcan afterlife or whatever. There's supposed to be some ritual after that. Well, McCoy doesn't remember and hasn't done it. But begins to suffer the effects of having Spock's chakra or whatever in him. And so they wind up, Bones will tell Kirk that, Spock is not dead or whatever. So Kirk steals the Enterprise, literally steals it from Starfleet.
Well, it's also his line, though, too. Just on McCoy's line. He's not dead as long as we remember.
Yes, that is also, yes, absolutely.
That ties into what you're saying about him.
Yeah, saying it having not remembered.
Yeah.
But
Spock's goal was just so he gets his ritual send-off on Vulcan?
Yes,
Not
he
to
would
come back to
want
life.
he would want his
Yeah.
Yes.
He
ritual
didn't do it
completed.
to, like, so I can come back to life. And
I don't
be
know
in
that
the
he
sequels.
anticipated that there would be a body for him to come back to.
Okay.
But having landed on the Genesis planet, because when the movie opens, you see a baby, an infant, and it's Spock. And he grows rapidly or whatever. And when they get to Vulcan, Spock.
And that's what the Genesis, the planet did.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
Nebula and a nothing planet.
And Spock is almost like he's walking around, but he's almost like a sort of in a fugue state
Mhm.
until he gets his chakra back from McCoy in a ritual or whatever. And that's what they steal the Enterprise because it's denied. We got to go. There's this stuff about Spock and Federation is no, we're not going to do that. And Kirk is like, the hell we aren't, and steals the Enterprise. And of course his crew is faithful, and
They go with him, yeah.
and they go with him, and it's
Who's the bad guy? No bad guy?
I can't remember
I
the
don't
the whole movie.
Oh, okay.
I have a question again.
Yeah.
It's about Genesis. It's starting to bother me.
Yeah.
How long does this Genesis just keep, like, I know Spock was sent to that planet not long after
Mhm.
it created the planet, but my goodness, if it takes him and makes him
Yeah.
a baby, then how long is this process does it keep growing and
Well,
growing?
the scientists said that the matrix is formed in seconds, and then the life from that matrix grows at an accelerated rate. So it wouldn't necessarily be that in the movie you see all the plants and trees already, and that's fairly rapid. But that ongoing process would have been slower than the initial laying of the matrix kind of thing.
But I mean,
It's all within about a week or so, wasn't it? Like goes from desolate to fully grown.
Yes. And I don't know how
Very
soon
biblical.
after. I don't.
but
remember
does that after a certain point go, okay, we're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I
Yes,
assume.
yeah. At some point, it would have just been sustaining, like a regular planet.
So nobody else that's buried there would come back and
It should
become
be
a baby.
completely empty.
Okay.
Yes, I don't think if you went there and died, you would come back to life.
I think in the third
years
one,
later or
the
whatever.
third one, they're doing scans
But
of Genesis.
if you
and they
were
find
a
life
body
form.
floating
That may
in
be,
space.
yeah. I think that's true. Yes.
If
They're
you're a
doing
bo-
scans. They're like, what is this?
If you're a body floating in space in the nebula, right, then and it picks you up, then you'd be a baby
Yes,
too. and
because
go back.
Spock was shot out as
Right.
that planet was forming, giving us.
So they're running from the shockwave of this Genesis, right? Because they established that the
'Cause yeah.
Genesis is if it were to happen on Earth, it'd wipe out all
Yes.
life, right?
Yeah.
So
and restart its own.
so say Spock couldn't fix the warp drive or whatever, right? So another plan is they could have all killed each other, right? Like a big suicide pact thing, and then when the shockwave hits them, a bunch of babies on the con.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm not
Right,
sure
the
they
way they
were
were
aware.
worked.
It probably would have destroyed the ship.
No, they weren't aware of that, but I mean,
No, it would have destroyed the
yeah,
ship. Yes.
No, you're right. Yeah, so then a bunch of
think
babies floating in space and they die anyways.
I think what it was the planet had already been
escape pods though, babies in escape pods.
Okay.
Opens on.
No, I hear ya.
The next one opens on a baby Kirk.
But as a scientist, how do you do a test? Okay, we need 6 guys to kill themselves. We want to see if this thing.
This whole thing's designed on that kind of thing. There's 6 red shirts right over there.
Sure. No, absolutely. Hey, step into this room.
God.
All right, just trying to understand the logic of this thing.
Yeah, I think Genesis was in the process of the second or third day. No, I guess it would have been the same day? Like they shot the planet with the Genesis planet formed,
Yeah.
and then they shot Spock onto it after it already formed. So maybe they caught it in some kind of cycle regeneration thing. And
You know, they established it brings back life. Like I didn't have a problem with him coming back to life or anything.
Yeah, there's no way Spock's
Yeah.
staying dead. I mean,
That too.
you want to
Yeah,
piss
yeah,
off
yeah.
Star Trek fans.
Right. We have a 10-year gap. We make a shitty movie, and then we
We're making a movie just to kill
farm
Spock.
on the second one, and so this is like a risky, not reboot, but a risky like sequel. And then they go, let's fucking kill Spock. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
I would have
pretty
liked to
bold,
know the
man.
thinking on that.
that's pretty bold.
I think
Yeah,
it was
if it
Leonard
doesn't
Nimoy.
work, well, we ended the
Yeah.
series. And Spock's fucking dead. I
I
guess.
think Leonard Nimoy said, I'm not
I'm
coming
not
back.
coming back. They
unless
should
you
fucking
kill
kill me. You pulled a Harrison Ford type thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they brought him back anyway.
Anyways,
Well, I
gotcha.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I would like to know the thought process on Star Trek 3 because I think at that point, at some point Nimoy embraces
Oh, yeah.
who he
Yeah.
was.
He embraced that paycheck they kept giving him. And, all the
and
directing opportunities and all that stuff.
yeah, because
Like,
I think he did 4. I don't know if he did 3 or not.
I don't know. I think he
Oh,
might
the
have.
director? Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way.
All right. Anything else about the beats or whatever?
Mm.
Nope. Okay. We're moving into our pass, consider, recommend. All right. I absolutely, of course, recommend this movie. I don't recommend Star Trek 1 at all, but this is what fans were waiting for. I think some of the science may be problematic, like you say, but that's a deep dive nerdum. But if you are even a middle of the road Star Trek fan, this delivers, I think. And it's cool that it's a sequel to a show, smartly done. I think it's everything. And I think when we talk about Ghostbusters 2, I think that delivers everything the fans wanted. I think this movie delivers everything the fans wanted that the first one didn't. As pure Star Trek, I highly recommend. As a movie, I recommend it, but certainly a Star Trek fan cannot find disappointment in this. As the fandom says, it's like 90% approval. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'd recommend it. I'm not a diehard Star Trek fan, but I have watched all of them. And this is the one, like, I agree with you. The first one, I barely remember it.
Yeah.
But the second one really got me fired up to watch the third one, the fourth one, and on and on. And they're all good movies. This one's probably the best of them.
Yes.
Other than Undiscovered Country. I think this one was supposed to be called Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
And then it was called Revenge of Khan or it is Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
But it was something else, but
Sure.
Return of the Jedi was coming out. No. Was it 82?
Yeah.
It was-
Jedi came out in 83, and
Yeah, they
originally,
were like-
originally that was called Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah, and they were kind of like, okay, we can't have it competing titles,
Yeah.
so now it's Wrath of Khan. But I'm more of a Star Wars fan myself. But this is a great movie. Totally recommend it. It's even if you just watch this one.
Sherry can speak to it, but she's not a Star Trek fan by any stretch. I mean, she likes it. I guess she can talk about it, but she said she was into it the whole time. And
Thank you for answering for me.
It's a great movie.
I mean, like if you, okay, so what James was saying, in my opinion, if you only had to watch, or if you could only pick one Star Trek movie, I think this one would be it.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the Star Trek movies that
Yes.
have ever been made.
Yes, I think this.
I think out of this set,
I mean, I like them all, but like,
Yeah.
I think this delivers. It's a callback to the original series. All the original. I think it hits on all cylinders as far as Star Trek nerdom and love.
yeah, I think it's the crown jewel of that OG cast.
Yeah,
the original everybody. That is the crown jewel of it.
Yeah.
So totally recommend.
Yeah, it's a consider, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
Ouch.
It's not a pass. It's just a consider. Like, if you're a fan of the ones with, the newer ones with Pine and you haven't seen these, go back and check it out. And again, it's, I guess I agree with everything you're saying as far as being the crown jewel, and it's the original, right? So it's hard not to, pay homage to that because none of the other stuff would exist without it.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess just as I enjoy the new ones way more than I enjoyed this one.
Well,
For sure.
It did not hold up to me. It was very dated, very, and I hate to
uniforms.
say that because I love movies that are older and I know
It was
they're-
very 80s. It was
and
very,
it was very like
early 80s.
and maybe
costumes and-
movies that I like or even enjoy more, like I'll look past all the shit that doesn't hold up because I enjoy them more. Where this one I couldn't, and that's really not fair because there's all kinds of movies that you overlook shit if you enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know,
Well, I think it is a generational thing too because then Next Generation came on and
yeah, I remember watching more of those.
and there were
with my
people
dad on
who that was their
TV
first
and stuff.
introduction to Star Trek and became absolute nerds about Star Trek. But to them, their captain is Picard always.
Yeah,
Picard is what is it? Picard is a better captain than Kirk. Is a superior captain.
I think he's more.
That'll piss off a lot
Well,
of people.
there's debate again, right? So nerdom, you don't want to get into that, but I mean, I think there are two different styles of captain.
yeah.
I think Kirk is way more brash and prone to asymmetrical thinking.
He's got better hair.
Sure. But I think Picard is
Have you seen the ones with Picard screen test where they put hair on him? It looks weird.
I bet it does.
It
I bet it
looks
does.
really
That's
weird.
weird. Yeah, no, we were I don't know, we were somewhere, Lath and I looking at movies or whatever or something, and he saw Picard, and I guess he finally put it together that Picard is that Star Trek, he's the captain, and he hasn't he's seen the ones with Pine, and that's probably
you
it.
see, that's what it's the
And he
generational
goes,
thing. That's his
What
first-
happened to Kirk? And I go, Picard's after Kirk. And he, obviously I wasn't, I could explain a little bit of it, but I'm not a Trekkie.
Right.
So I
You should
couldn't
show
explain.
him, what was it, Generations? Star Trek Generations.
Yeah, there is a
there you go.
bridge movie that.
Yeah.
I was a
I
captain
remember
of a
I saw that in the
starship
theater.
when you were like
Yeah.
pooping your pants or something.
I saw that in the theater. Yeah. I saw Undiscovered Country and that one in the theater, the Generations. And actually, one of the things I like about it is we were kind of talking about it a little bit earlier, is Kirk says at the beginning of that movie, if I remember right, that talking about with Spock and McCoy, because he's climbing the mountain and he slips
Yes.
and falls, right? And
Yep.
they catch him.
Yep.
And he goes, I know that when I die, I'll die alone. Because it didn't go into what you're saying about them being his brain and his heart, right? They're not with him, and that's how he beats all the bad guys, because they work together.
Yes.
So later on, yeah, he has Picard, but those guys aren't with him, and he, when he dies or whatever.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
no, it's good.
But yeah, I don't know. It's considering if you like sci-fi, like, you want to check this out. But yeah, I
is.
guess I can't.
I think that 90% of fans that love this are the ones who fell in love with the original series, and
Sure.
so it depends when they were introduced to Star Trek. I think
Right.
where your loyalties lie, and there is a huge base of Star Trek fans that sure like Kirk, but Picard is their captain, and
Yeah, it's interesting. Like
Janeway's.
I
my
recommend
Yeah, yeah.
Star Trek, but not
Janeway's good.
this one. I guess you know what I mean. Like I can't recommend this one for everyone. I guess does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like you should definitely check out some form of Star Trek at some point,
You'll
right?
find
As far as
something that you
cinema.
but this
like.
shouldn't be your
Yeah.
entry point. Yeah,
I don't know that this is the right one for everybody. I guess you have to pick that. But
I
That's
think
true.
I think people who loved it, like, because I knew immediately, oh, it's based on a show. I know which show it is. I know I immediately went back to the original show. I know what this is going. This is awesome. Somebody who's like into Next Generation wouldn't have that base
Yeah.
to draw upon. Well, that's and like I love the original series, but it was low budget and a lot of times, and
It was the 60s.
you're right.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so Sherry, you up?
Okay. So, Philip, you know that I'm not into a lot of sci-fi
No.
shows like this.
Right.
However, every time when we have actually watched the original series, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It surprised me how much
Sure.
I enjoyed it. Even to the point we started watching the Orville.
Yeah.
It surprised me that I really liked that.
Yeah, I think yeah.
And it does remind me a lot of Star Trek.
Yeah, it's,
well,
when the
whole
Orville
thing's an
came out,
homage, right?
very
to it
much
in a
so.
way.
And when Discovery came out, it was not immediately received by fans, and people were saying, "Well, the Orville is the Star Trek we were waiting for."
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think Discovery's pretty good. It does play around with the timeline, which Pine movies do, but
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, I recommend it. I enjoyed it. I think I even saw. I don't know if I saw this one, but I've seen some of the older ones in the movie theater.
Sure.
I remember the scenes. I don't remember the whole stories, but I do remember the ear thing.
Yeah.
And then you reminded me, or you told me which one I was talking about being in San Francisco with
That's the
someone.
whales.
Whales,
She thought
yeah.
that was
I was like, is this the episode? And he,
That's
no.
the fourth one.
Star Trek 4. Yeah, the whales.
Is that what it's called? Star Trek for the
No,
whales?
It's not.
So-
Voyage
I
Home.
think it's just. Is it? It might be.
Voyage Home, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
We went to see the newer ones in the theater,
Sure.
and it surprised me how much I like
No,
that.
and it's quality of characters
They have
and
good
action.
story. Yeah.
right. Star Trek 4 is very much more comedic. I think I think it's lighter.
The one with the whale.
Yeah.
I
Whales.
Too
still
much.
don't
What
know.
did he say?
Too much LDS in the 60s.
Too
I
much
love
LDS in the 60s.
They meant because they're trying to go undercover, and why is he dressed like that? Well, too much LDS in the he meant to say LSD. obviously, yeah.
right?
Anyway, there are several light moments, and it's
It involves
So
time
anyway.
travel, and that's
yes,
always
they go back to
Oh,
because whales are anyway.
Yeah.
They run up against an alien that is speaking in basically whale song, I think, and there's no whales anymore, and they have to go back and get a whale, and they meet a sign. I can't remember all of
Yeah,
it, but they
save
do
the
wind up.
whales.
They do wind up saving the whales for the 23rd century or whatever.
Leonard Nimoy did direct that one.
Yes, yeah, I believe that's
for sure.
Yeah,
That's somebody's fucking passion project.
Uh-huh.
To do a Star
it's
Trek
good though.
movie,
It's
for sure.
it's good.
So who are the bad guys?
They couldn't
The guys who
do
worked out the whales?
They couldn't do a replicator of a whale. Big
yeah.
enough.
I don't think it can. It replicates
food.
Yeah, but it's not. It's inanimate matter. I don't think you can.
and when
replicate-
you're talking about that replicate, don't they do that on the Orville too?
I think so.
That's
may
how
not
they get
call
their
it a
food or their
replicator.
drinks or whatever.
Probably.
Okay.
What they didn't want on the Orville was transporters because they thought it was too easy to fix. Because it's like cell phones, right? The transporter, I'll just beam them out. So they always have to have the transporter go down, or it's too much static. 'Cause
Yeah, well,
it's-
now, like you're saying with cell phones, now there's no service.
Yeah, so it's always I can't get any bars,
Yeah.
Well, in Star Trek, the transporters, it's too much static, or the transporter's gone down,
right.
Yeah, to make it because he didn't want an easy fix in the Orville anyway.
Okay.
Well, cool.
Yeah. All right, that's Star Trek 4 and
No?
2.
2. Star Trek 2.
What movie are we
We're
reviewing?
reviewing. All right, let's. Where's my thing?
You programmed it.
Let's close this monster out.
Does William Shatner know that he's not a captain of a starship?
The screenwriter says he had taken an account for that.
Because he does a lot of sitting around going, I'm on.
Right. Well, we all know the ending of this movie. Spock dies.
What?
I'm sure there's a podcast where 4 nerds are sitting around debating this.
Right.
No, it was the Nebula.
Not these 4 nerds.
Not because, like I said, dude, that's,
That whole shelf of books is like revenge stories.
it probably is.
Scotty squeezed out a couple extra
Yes.
whatever. So.
And then they can go, let's fucking kill Spock. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
I would have
pretty
liked to
bold.
know the thinking on that.
That'll piss off other
Well, there's debate again, right? So,
there's 6 red shirts right over there.
sure. No, absolutely. Hey, step into this room.
God.